Can you hear me? Do you have sound? Hello everyone, I'm Priyanka Chopra and I'm live today from Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. This is one of the biggest refugee camps in the world at the moment, and I'd like to take a second to show you the expanse of it. As far as my eye can see, all I see is makeshift huts and makeshift homes for almost 700,000 people that have fled Myanmar to seek refuge. Out of these 700,000 people, more than 700,000 people, 60% are children. That is almost 400,000 children living in these circumstances. It does not matter to me where a child is from, what a child's circumstances are, or what a child's religion is, or caste is, or creed is, or where they come from. To me, a child is a child, and every child deserves the right to a future. No child deserves to live in the conditions I have seen children live in refugee camps. It rained today. When I woke up this morning, before I came to this camp, there were thunderstorms and rain. And the upcoming monsoon season, which is a period of time in this part of the world where you have torrential rains and cyclones, and it floods out cities sometimes. But when you live in situations like this, where you have plastic and thatch, and that's your only shelter, I had a moment. I sat up and I said, oh my God, it is that time. What is going to happen when monsoon hits? But those are all the concerns. Hence, all of us and UNICEF imploring you as the global community to make a difference to these children's lives, because they have nothing. They have none of the basic things, the basic rights that children need. Clean water, food, shelter, sanitation, basic things like that, so that they don't fall prey to diseases like cholera, diarrhea. I'd like to take you into one of these incredible spaces that UNICEF has partnered with and built for children in situations where they have dealt with so much violence that they don't have any place where they can be kids again. So this sort of provides a sanctuary for these children to actually be themselves, draw, color, paint, and not think about the horrors or the carnage that they may have witnessed. And these are kids. I would love for you to meet all of these incredible kids. Please come in with me. This is a child-friendly space. How do you say how are you in Bangla? Kenoso. This is Sweetie, who's my interpreter. Hello everyone, Kenoso. How are you? I'm good. How are you? Yeah? How are you? You are well? Wow. Sweetie, will you ask them what are they doing?
We are drawing pictures.
What can everybody show me what they've drawn? Wow. Ask her what is that, a helicopter? And this is your house? In Burma? As you can see, the children are still drawing helicopters, spraying bullets at them and their homes and their families. Wow, so good. So good. Very good. As you can see, these children are just really trying to be kids. They're having fun, they get dressed up in clothes, they draw, they laugh, they play with each other, and all they have is this space to do that in. They come into these child-friendly spaces for about 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time they're just running around in these makeshift camps, which are endless, and that's their life. And no child deserves that. They don't know when they're getting their next meal, they don't know when they're getting anything. And it's up to us as the global community to care. We need to care. The world needs to care, because these children can be a completely lost generation. Well, I thank all of you for being a part of this Facebook Live for me, so I can share with you the experience of what I have seen and how much these people need our help as a global community. Children who deserve to have the right to a future, deserve to have the right to dreams. Anyway, now I'm going to take a few questions because there have been a lot of questions that have been coming up and a lot of you seem to be very interested. It's extremely hot, as you can see. James's first question is, what is it like in the camps? So hot. It is extremely hot. Even though these are thatch walls, extremely hot temperatures, no access to clean water. All their latrines are almost very close to freshwater sites like hand pumps and etc. So when the rain comes down, the latrines flood up and they contaminate the fresh water and their drinking water and spreads disease. They literally live in, because it's a very conservative community, they live in very closed thatch homes with no windows and just made out of bamboos and plastic and with no jobs and no access to anything. And the children are just running around trying to find a moment to understand what just happened to them. Second question. Kazia Swelling on Twitter, what can society do to change the reality of these people? I'm going to say it, but I think society needs to care. I think the most important thing is compassion. It does not matter where a child is from, what his forefathers have done, or what his or her circumstances are, or what his religion is. Your compassion needs to be to children. And I think society needs to show its compassion towards children, and not just these children in this refugee camp, but refugee children all over the world, because they didn't ask for it. They deserve our help. Iftu, how you met many kids during your field visit with UNICEF. What is the one thing that you have learned from these children? I have had the good fortune of working with UNICEF now for 12 years, 10 years in India, doing some amazing work with UNICEF India, with the children in India, which warms my heart. And then I have traveled with, as UNICEF's global ambassador to Jordan to visit Syrian refugees, now to the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh, Zimbabwe. And the one thing in common that I see with all children around the world is how much they want to be educated. Like if you ask any of them, what is your dream? They'll say, I want to go to school. They'll say, I want to be, like I met this kid just yesterday and he wanted to be a journalist. And this is in these camps where these children have never had an idea of a future, but now these children are actually getting access to basic education by being in Bangladesh, because the country has opened up its doors so incredibly to so many people, and so some wonderful non-profits and UNICEF have come together to provide basic education to these children. And now they have aspirations and dreams, which is so great for us as a world. So he wanted to be a journalist. And I asked him, what will you tell the world if you become a journalist? And he said that when countries fight, it's bad for everyone. That's profound, isn't it? From a 5-year-old. All right, the next question. Samna Vasilda. Do you ever get heartbroken by the situations you see? Yes, Samna, I won't lie. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy to see children in circumstances like this and not be able to do much. I mean, I get a lot of people saying, why don't you adopt a whole class of children and bring them back to your home? Or why don't you do that? Or why don't you do this? That's not the answer. No amount of contribution from your end or my end no amount is too small. Whatever you can give will help these children get so much. Now, we don't need to harp on about what each one of us does, but no donation is too small, and that's all we need. So yeah, my heart breaks every time, and yes, I get very emotional, and when I go back to my life, it takes me a really long time, and I can't wait till I make my next trip again to showcase what children around the world are facing and what troubles they're facing, because as a global citizen, I feel like it is my responsibility and my duty to make sure that the world cares. And I take that responsibility very seriously. So even though my heart is broken, I see the smiles on their faces, and I see how little they have and how happy they can be, and I feel positive that the world will care about these children and their smiles. All right, next question. Jessica Marie. How has becoming a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador changed your outlook on life? My parents were very philanthropic when I grew up, so I can't say that I wasn't aware of the difference us, people like you and me, who live in privileged society, can make to people who don't have the privileges as us. But I think working with UNICEF and traveling around the world, I was exposed to so much poverty, sorrow, lack of education in my country itself. And when I worked with UNICEF and a lot of other NGOs earlier, and now even, you know, I got to see how much we can do in terms of our contribution. And then I started traveling with UNICEF as their global ambassador all over the world. And the world matters to me. I care about the world because we have just one. So the outlook on my life has changed, that children all over the world matter. Whether it is my own country, India, whether it is in the country I live in, which is the US, or any of the countries that I travel in, children matter. And your compassion towards children matter, not their circumstances. So that's the outlook that's changed for me. Oh, hello, Henrietta, UNICEF Executive Director, Henrietta 4. We're very excited, thank you. What is the greatest need you see amongst these Rohingya children? That's a really difficult question because I think their need is for everything that children require to grow up. Their basic need for food, clean water, sanitation, education, clothes, shelter, just every single thing that you would need from a child, for a child to grow up adequately and not have a stunted growth, is what these children need. They don't even know when their next meal is coming. So I think the greatest need, especially with the impending monsoons coming up, is the entire world caring and donating whatever little you can, so that we can at least make sure that the structures that have been created, these makeshift structures that these children are living in with their families, when they get flooded, or maybe they don't get flooded because we make them concrete, but when they get flooded, that we have the ability to rebuild that so that they can live in a safe sanctuary. I think that is most important. Pooja Gupta, how do you control your emotions when you see the struggle of these children? Because my emotions are not as important, Pooja, as what they are going through. I may feel sad. I feel sad when I'm talking to you about it right now. But they don't deserve to see that because they've seen horror and carnage and a life that you and I probably could never imagine. And just hearing their stories, like yesterday, a 16-year-old girl told me a story about how she was pulled out of her hut after her sisters were raped and threatened at knife point, and she fought back, she clawed people, and then she was let go because she fought back. And I asked her, I said, what gave you so much strength? And she said, if you're born, you will die. And I'm not scared to die today, but I will not let someone take away my dignity. That inspired me and moved me. But to see the strength of these children, I'm nothing. I'm just a means to an end. I am just someone who's trying to show the world and give access to the world and show them what these kids need. I'm just the means to an end. Romaine Thomas from Canada, what brought you into this role, and what's the impact you can bring? So Romaine, that's a really interesting question. What brought me into the world was I became a public person when I was 17 years old. And I realized that having a platform where people listen to me can probably be one of my greatest strengths. And I decided to use that platform to amplify the voice of people who might not have access to that voice, or amplify the needs of people that may not have the ability to reach out to you or anybody else in the world. And that's how I decided to use everything that has been given to me. Like I said, I'm just a voice. I'm just a means to an end. I'm just trying to highlight the needs of people, and children especially, around the world. And I think the impact I'm trying to bring is to make the world a more compassionate place, and not to think about what a child is coming from, or what his history or her history is, what the circumstances are, what his parents have done, or what where he comes from, I think the most important thing is to just think of a child as a child. And the world needs to have that compassion. We cannot divide children with religion and culture and country and creed. We have to see children as children. So that's the impact I hope I can have. Kitan Smith, how do you go home feeling? Do you go home feeling you did enough? Never. I go home feeling like I tried, but every time I go home, it takes me about 2-3 days to sort of recover a little bit. And then I'm on the phone with UNICEF again saying, where are you taking me next? Where can I go? Where can I help? Where do you need me? And I'm ready to go. I think that's the feeling I take home, is most of the kids that I meet and I share my time with, they keep a very special place in my heart. And they've really changed me. Simon from London, what do the children do in the camps? That's such a good question, Simon. Kids come and spend time for about 2 hours or so in these child-friendly spaces. Otherwise, they're usually at home. They do a lot of chores, especially the girls, and the boys sort of run around, help their family in the little shops that they have, in the markets that they've created, to maybe try and help their parents or their fathers to earn. But mostly the kids don't really have access to anything. And even the learning centers that the UNICEF has provided, because of lack of space, these kids don't even have, they're up to capacity. They can't even fit all the other children. I mean, right now, and there are like 2 teachers teaching about 200 children at the same time. And that is like a dire need. And also the education that these kids get is not formal education. They get basic education in Burmese, English, and math. And that's not going to make them ready to have jobs and careers, which most of them aspire to have now. So the access to education and a curriculum is extremely critical for these children. Natasha from India, what about the monsoon? What will happen? So that's a really good question, Natasha. Like this morning, I know it was raining, and when I woke up and I looked outside the window and it was rain. And the first thought that came into my head, because I've spent 4 days in these camps, was what's going to happen to this? What's going to happen when it rains? What's going to happen to like all of this? I can shake it with my own hand. And this is not like, I'm not even, this is what happens if torrential rain comes down. They have cyclones here. And these camps, you have to know, are built on hills which were deforested. So there's dangers of landslide, mudslides, and these houses being caught in that, and people being caught in that. Monsoon season's coming up. So that is why it is so important right now for you all to get involved and donate and help us reinforce these structures. Melissa, this motivates me. Thank you. How can I help? Oh my God, you can help so much. Please go to unicef.org and you'll find out everything that you need over there. Donate your time, donate your money, donate your compassion. I'm so glad you asked that question. Thank you, Melissa. Well, I have to go and spend some time with these kids and then fly to Dhaka. So I'm going to wrap it up now. But thank you so much for sharing this with me. This has been such an incredible experience. I go back a changed person, and this reinforces my faith and belief that children around the world will always have my help and support. And now I need yours. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Sweetie, can you tell them if we can draw together? Hi. क्या बनाया? हाँ?
सभी आके दीवारी बनाए? शिकाय बारी बनाए?
So, no, I can do that. ये तुमने बनाया? हाँ, इसको green बनाया?